not be out in that sun, you're going to see an increase in blindness. I understand that Glenn Beck on the radio was talking about his eye problems. He's seeing a doctor. He's losing his sight, or his sight is being affected.
Right. Yeah, like cataracts. You'll see a big increase in cataracts and everything else because of it.
Yeah. You should stay out of the sun. If you do go outside, every night you take a shower, wash your hair, change your pillowcases, change your sheets on your bed frequently, filter the air in the bedroom the best you can. That's real, and it's not something to play with. We have that to contend with on top of the Gulf, you see.
Now, Griff, I do have somebody on the line. I'm going to bring him on. This is Dr. Prepper. He's a best-selling author and somebody who is very skilled when it comes to preparation. Doc, you there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you just fine. I wanted to bring him on, Griff, because he is a wealth of knowledge when it comes to being to getting prepared. And I really can't, it's so hard to say at this point, well, how do you go about this? But I wanted to get your perspective, Doc, on what do you think the priorities are when it comes to preparation for something of this magnitude?
The first and most important thing for all of us is our shelter. We have to have a place to live. We need security and sanctity. We need safety for our family. Most people yell about water and food, but that's really second. You could freeze to death or burn up while you're waiting if you have improper shelter or no shelter, and that looks like it could be the case. That's why I'm tickled that Mr. Griffith is able to elucidate on these on that. I don't get into that kind of stuff because it makes me dysfunctional. I try to stay totally focused on preparedness and how to go about it, and it helps keep the emotion away from the conversation because people get so polarized by especially the negative emotions in terms of preparedness. I don't get into the driving factors, but the motivational factor should be to preserve your family. That's the biggest motivator I have.
Well, that certainly is a very important attribute to have. Griff, just so you know, that Dr. Prepper here has been doing this for how long now?
I started in 1974. I was raised on a farm my whole life, so I grew up this way. So you can say, golly, I'm about the same age as Mr. Griffith. I'm 71 now, so it's been my whole life.
See, so you're not alone, Griff.
I'm pleased to meet someone older than me.
I did it as a favor to you, my friend.
Thank you.
Well,
Dr.
I just don't
Prepper,
have
that couldn't be your last name, is it?
No, it's a nom de plume, or it's one I use on air. It's easier to remember than my real name, which I've used for many, many years. I wrote my book in 1974, and it was just 2 months before the June 1974 gas crisis. So you might say my timing was really good. And then it came back several years later in the 80s when we had the 18% interest rates for homes. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
And then in Y2K it became a bestseller. We went up to about 750,000 copies. So we've been around a long time, been through ups and downs, and almost 3 generations now of people. Generations who are getting more lost with each one, it seems, less and less skills. And I guess I'm one of the last. There are just a couple of us who were around in 1974. And we're good friends, and we share publications sometimes in order to help people. But we stay really focused on the preparedness aspect and let you other gurus with knowledge and experience where you got it and know firsthand what's going on be the inspiration for it, and then we try to provide the tools, the mechanisms, and resources. I'm really into resources. I own the database to the industry, so it's really kind of fun.
Well, I'm anxious to ask you about the mindset of the people. You no doubt have picked up on the mindset out there in the world. Most of the people don't have the experience, the life experience to apply survival techniques to their lives.
Absolutely. In fact, I think the number one influence or number one attitude of the American public is just indifference. And I would say that about maybe 15% of the population has a clue. The other 85% are probably not seriously interested. You have to admit that the people who are online here are certainly interested. I don't know how many of them are seriously preparing. I kind of go to these, I follow these shows, one, because they're totally different from mine and the way I do business, but they give me a feeling of attitude, and as I read what they're saying and listen to their discussions among themselves, I'm thinking, we really need to make that commitment. Many people in America have not made the commitment to preserve their life. They're going to wait, as you said earlier. May I call you AC? Is that okay?
Yes, that's fine, or Griff.
Okay, Griff. That sounds better. Most of the people, I would say 5% possibly of the population could make it. In the next hour, if it happened, they can make it. Another 10% would be able to hang on for a while. Then the other 85% are in deep yogurt.
And you know,
well, let me explain something to you guys. I don't like dead, and I've put a considerable amount of my time since I woke up on how to keep from becoming dead, even to the point where I've designed my own off-the-grid heating system. And the only thing that I'm missing now is how to power my battery bank on a day that's not windy, because my wind turbine won't be charging it. And I'm currently in the middle of building myself a solar panel. I've been doing some research on that for about the past 4 days on how to build one cell by cell. And the most detailed videos that I can come up with on YouTube is by a young gentleman who has a channel on YouTube by the name of Robert Smith 3, the number 3, Robert Smith 3. He not only shows you step by step, he explains it, and then at the end of the 18-part video series, he explains how you convert watts to amps to volts and back and forth, and so you can get familiar with how much power you're using versus how much power you're putting into the battery bank. So if anybody's wondering how, when the grid goes down, they can remain have lights on, that is just one way to go about it. And I'll yield the floor.
You know what? I got something to throw in there too. That's pretty relevant to the discussion, and that's something that I learned when I first started my spiritual journey. And the thing that was very easily explained to me, the devil, or whoever you believe in as the bad spiritual force, if you will, always gives people the idea or the feeling that there's always tomorrow. You know, it's okay because there's always tomorrow. You always have tomorrow. Everybody that goes to sleep at night always figures that they're going to wake up tomorrow. And the fact of the matter is, folks, we don't know what's coming down the pipe 5 minutes from now, let alone tomorrow. We can think that we do, but we don't. And it's that prevalent attitude that makes people, or gives them the idea that they have this time. And I think at this point in time, it's safe to say, Doc and Griff, that time is fast fading. Wouldn't you think?
Yes. Scarlett O'Hara felt like that also. She said fiddly-dee. You remember?
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's true. Absolutely true.
Yes. We have very little time left. It's really starting to manifest in a big way right now. Major events are starting to come together, like the tracks at Grand Central Station. It's happening right before our eyes. I had a real intelligent statement or question I wanted to put out, and it's completely gone from my memory now. I guess it's a function of being old.
That's okay.
I call it maturity.